Looking at the North American marketplace, it is the most mature, the most sophisticated, and the most deepest market for fitness anywhere in the world. California has always been one of the largest markets globally, not just in terms of its economy, but of course in its fitness and wellness industry. We were very lucky to have a chat with Francesca Schuler, who's CEO of InShape Health Clubs. Francesca runs 65 clubs across California, and so is incredibly well placed to talk both in terms of the dynamics that are now happening in the West Coast of America, but of course across America as a whole. A real pleasure. My colleague Sarah interviewed Francesca, and here is her interview.
Welcome to the exclusive main stage keynote CEO interview at the World Fitness and Wellness Online Summit organized by the Fit Summit. Today, we will be interviewing an exemplary women leader, CEO of InShape. InShape Health Clubs has 65 locations all across California with premium amenities and group fitness classes such as childcare, swimming pools, yoga, and cycling. Hi,
Francesca. Sarah, how are you? Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here, albeit virtually.
Yes, I know. It's a complete honor and pleasure to have you present with us. Thank you so much for agreeing for this interview. How are you? How's things been for you?
Well, I think the words that I've been using the last 4 months has been sort of heartbreaking, humbling, and in some ways re-energizing. So it's been really challenging, obviously, to have our clubs closed. In California, we closed in mid-March. We reopened briefly at the end of June, and then we re-shut down again at the beginning of July. So we have had to hire and lay off and hire and lay off several rounds. So that's been just heartbreaking, the decisions we've had to make. It's been humbling, I think, in how gracious the world has been. My peers in other states or other operators in California, my team, our members, that's been really inspiring and humbling, quite frankly, given that everyone is in a state of turmoil. But honestly, it's also been a little bit re-energizing and reminding us what fitness is all about and what our call to action is as an industry, and how we really need to have a renewed sense of purpose around our role. So I know we'll chat a little bit about that. So it's been a convergence of lots of emotions, I'll be honest with you. It's been a definite challenging few months.
It's must definitely been like a roller coaster experience for you, which I am very much excited to hear later part in the interview. But let's just dive straight into our first question. Okay, one of my first questions to you is, how have you seen consumer behavior and consumer demand change across all these times since you started InShape? Will these changes be temporary or permanent?
So what's been interesting is there's sort of pre-COVID, during COVID, and what I think will happen post, to be honest with you. I think we're in 3 very distinct phases. What was obviously super energizing about the fitness industry pre-COVID was it was a growth industry. More and more people were engaging in it, lots of innovation, just a lot of excitement in the category globally. And that was, it's really fun to be part of a growth industry. And so I think the demand and the interest in fitness and different kinds of fitness was no question a big part of our industry pre-COVID. The time we're in now, I think, is just a big time of uncertainty. There's a group of people who have said, at all costs, I'm going to keep up my fitness role, and they'll find any way and anywhere to do it, whether they run outside, online videos, they'll come to the club no matter what. The minute you open, they're sort of the dedicated hardcore people. But that group, I think, is overshadowed by 2 others, which is a group of people that are now afraid health-wise. And no matter what you do, no matter what your standards are in a fitness facility, they're just afraid. They're afraid for their personal health, their family's health, which is totally legitimate at this time. And then there's a really large group of people that I think are honestly somewhat confused on what to believe between a media headline and a chart and data and messages from the industry and messages from other industries. It's really confusing. And I think that's leading to a lack of motivation and a struggle physically and mentally for the majority of us, quite frankly. It's a really hard time. And I say confused, not in a negative way, but really it's just confusing. How should I feel safe? How should I remotivate? What's my life going to look like? And that's really, I think, the overpowering group of people and emotions that people are feeling at this time. So how that's going to shake out afterwards, I have complete confidence in the long-term outlook for this category. I think there's some things we've learned that I'll talk about in a little bit around what we need to do differently. But I believe more and more people are going to be interested in fitness. They realize the importance of good health. If nothing else, this pandemic has reminded us that staying healthy is all we've got. It's the most important thing. And there's no question that good physical fitness is part of good physical health and mental health. So the outlook is really strong. It's going to be a rocky road, I think, for the next 18, 24 months for us.
I have to completely agree with you. If there's two things that this pandemic has taught us, is that it has caused accelerated digital growth, and it also has costed us to take care and love our bodies even much more. So that's a very good reminder. So thanks for sharing that. Let's move on to our next question to get to know more a bit about you. You're a founding member of the California Fitness Alliance. Can you tell us more about it?
Sure. So I joined the industry about 5 years ago. Had not worked in fitness before, and it's been an amazing 5-year journey. But most recently, when we closed clubs in California and really moved into what I call crisis mode, which we're definitely still in, there was no question that we needed to unify as an industry. So the industry has historically been filled with competitive people who compete. We compete with each other and has been quite fragmented. And it's still an industry where there's a lot of small businesses, sole proprietors who own a yoga studio or one franchise, to very large companies that have, a global footprint. But we've never really been as cohesive as I think we could be or needed to be. And in all honesty, it hadn't been a priority. And with the crisis that's occurred, we are one of the industries that's been the most decimated by the pandemic, no question. Going from revenue to zero overnight. Even retailers could ship things online. Fitness went to literally zero. And so we created the California Fitness Alliance really at the end of March, beginning of April. Several operators and I in California got together and said, how do we advocate for our industry at the state level? In the United States, some decisions are made nationally. Many of the decisions are being made at the state level and even more local than that. So we created the California Fitness Alliance with 3 purposes. One, we want it to be a unified voice of fitness, whether you're an operator, a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, a supplier, one place where we could all feel like our voice is unified to advocate for the industry. The second thing would be to really advocate for reopening. So that's what we've been focused on, is trying to get reopened. We were successful, and then unfortunately there was a surge in California, so we're closed again. But part of reopening was advocating for very high standards. So when we reopened, we were really safe. And I'm really proud of the work we did there, because while we were only open briefly, we had incredible results around the safety of all of our facilities. So we did a great job there. So we're still focusing on reopening. That's the number one priority right now, reopening safely. And then the third one is really recovery. And how does fitness in California be part of the solution, the long-term solution for healthcare? We view ourselves as preventative medicine, quite frankly. We want to be part of the healthcare ecosystem, not part of the leisure ecosystem. We believe fitness is essential. So we want to partner with the governor and his team to really advocate for fitness being essential, work with healthcare providers to be part of their ecosystem, and really bring fitness to more people so that if, God forbid, we have another surge of COVID-19 or another pandemic, we have healthier people in California who can withstand that in a much better way than we have this time. So that's what we've been doing.
Definitely agreeing with you about how fitter and healthier people basically is the form of prevention for another pandemic from happening. Even if it does happen, because that's not under our control, we can obviously assure that we will be coming out with fitter and healthier people. So I completely agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it comes back to
Sorry, one note if I could add on that. I think hopefully everyone realizes this, but sadly the pandemic has impacted people primarily with underlying chronic diseases, most of which fitness overcomes. So if you just read the headline, you think, oh, many tragic deaths from this. But if you dig deeper into the data, There's no question, obesity, type 2 diabetes,
Yes.
heart disease, many things that we in the fitness industry work hard to help people overcome, high blood pressure. We really can be part of the solution. And I think we've seen that, unfortunately, the negative impact of it this time around.
I love the part where you said that we have to be responsible to be part of the preventive side, and we have to start seeing ourselves. The fitness industry needs to start seeing itself as being a form of the preventive medicine rather than just being something recreational. So I completely agree
100%.
with you on that. One of my next questions is starting California Fitness Alliance. How have you seen the fitness industry coming together to respond to this pandemic?
Yes, so that's been one of the silver linings of this time, this crisis that we're in now. It has been incredibly inspiring to see how quickly we've rallied both within California and across the country and globally. We started a Tuesday kind of CEO call way back in April, and we have CEOs from Asia, from Europe, from the US, from North America, all just sharing, very transparent sharing of information, best practices, questions. And that didn't really exist before. So that's been an amazing move forward. In California, I talk to my fellow operators probably every day, multiple times a day right now, just what's going on. Our teams are collaborating on how do we reopen safely? What are the right team standards? What's the right member experience? So it's really been a great collaboration. I think our next real call to action, though, and what we're starting to talk about, and would ask everyone who is participating in your amazing summit to work with us on this, is we really need to rebrand fitness, we believe, globally. We really believe that fitness from a perception as an industry is still viewed as a industry of, the old gym with bodybuilders, or a leisure recreational activity, to your point. It is not viewed as essential and critical to everyone. And some of that we've done to ourselves as an industry. The imagery we put out there is not approachable for many people. It's intimidating. The language that we use, the focus on innovation around top performance versus accessibility. So we own that as an industry, and we're starting now to work together to really rebrand fitness. Honestly, I believe it should be viewed as, essential healthcare. And so we're trying to figure out how we work together to get that message out. I've had countless interviews during this process where people are like, well, is fitness safe? Is it really essential? Are gyms clean? And, I answer all those questions in a positive way, because I believe we are clean and we are essential. And then I ask them, do you work out? Oh, I love my studio, gym, trainer, you name it, CrossFit's, box. And I'm like, well, that is the fitness industry. So there's this big disconnect between perception of the industry and everyone's personal experience of it. And we have to bridge that gap. We have to be viewed as critical and essential, not just because we're self-serving as a fitness industry, but honestly, we need to make the world a healthier place. I mean, that is our purpose and call to action as an industry. And so that's really where I see us all having conversations now on that. We're getting our marketing teams together, and I'm super energized that I believe if we do this, we'll bring more people into the category and they will be healthier, which is what we really want.
I'm very much excited to see how your message, the thing that really hit me was fitness being viewed as the essential and critical healthcare. I think I am very excited to see the kind of initiatives that InShape and even California Fitness Alliance is going to bring across to the world. This new message is going to be the new norm, and it should be how fitness should be viewed in the upcoming months or in the upcoming years to come. So thank you. Yeah. What do you think? What do you believe is the most important message for the fitness industry as a whole to adopt?
It's sort of actually a great question based on what I just said. I really think it is putting a lens of healthcare on our business. And what does that mean? And I think that links closely to making sure that we speak in a way that invites people to join and doesn't alienate people. We need to reach out to all the healthcare providers. They're struggling with how to keep their costs down. They have the same call to action we do, which is healthier people, but yet we don't have conversations. I mean, if you look at most healthcare conferences in the world, there is never a fitness provider included, ever. You look at most fitness conferences, this is changing a little bit, but it's mostly just the fitness industry, and you don't have pharmaceutical companies, hospital groups there. There's been some effort to bridge that gap. So I think if we put the lens on, we are preventative medicine, really. We are lifestyle medicine. We are essential to the healthcare journey so that you don't actually need to go to the hospital. If we find a way to communicate that in an accessible way, which I know we can, that's really, in my opinion, the call to action for the industry for the next 5 years. That's what we need to do. Probably 10 years, but I'm going to stick with 5 for now.
Agreed. I think I agree with you. I think to bridge the gap that is between the healthcare industry and the fitness industry is what we should be focusing on in the next upcoming years. I completely agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on a bit. Agreed. Do you want to say something?
Well, I wanted to share one story that, what's interesting at many of our healthcare or fitness companies, I'll speak for InShape, we have a lot of people who were nurses or in the nursing field who actually left nursing and joined us. And the reason they say that is they got tired of seeing people when they were sick, and it was almost too late to help them. And they wanted to help people, but they wanted to kind of move it upstream. We have countless of our team members who really made an explicit decision to leave the healthcare field as we define it today and move into fitness, which I think just illustrates the fact that we really are part of the healthcare solution and we need to bridge that gap.
I agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing this story. I think let's move away a bit from what's happening during this pandemic and what are we going through. Let's focus on leadership and culture a bit. How have you managed to engage and energize your team over such during trying few months? And what lessons have you learned as a leader?
Great question. I think about it every morning when I get up, to be honest with you, is how am I going to do it today? It has been hard. I do not have 3 words of wisdom to say how great it's been. It has been, like I said, heartbreaking and humbling. Are the 2 words I keep using. What I have learned is a couple things. I've learned, one, that the importance of culture really comes through in times of crisis much more than in good times. And it's a real test of your culture. I think as a leader, you work hard with your team to develop a culture, to have a culture that you believe is sustainable, is unique, is inspiring. And when business is good, it's pretty easy to make everything feel really good and inspiring. And a crisis, while I would never choose this, is definitely a real test of your culture. And for us at InShape, it no question has been that. And it's been really humbling for me to see how our team has just continued to live our values through this. So I'm incredibly grateful to them and their willingness to be part of the solution and do whatever it takes to emerge from this crisis successfully. And it's taught me that you can never stop focusing on culture, and you need to make sure it's really authentic. People understand it and believe it, because there is a time where you will have to call on that equity. I am doing it now. I am borrowing equity from my team of all the work we did before. And I'm grateful that we spent all that time on culture versus just talking about sales or business results, because it has really shown through now. So I think that lesson number 1 is reinforce the importance of culture and making sure that it runs as deep as it can in your company, no matter good times or bad. So I think that's been 1. I think 2, staying true to it, even in times of crisis. It is hard. When we first shut down, you can imagine we laid off over 3,000 people in a matter of days. And it would be easy to have just done what we needed to do, but we spent as much time thinking about how to do it as the need to do it, because we wanted to stay true to our roots. So I would say keeping your cultural values intact, even in times of crisis, you have to spend the time to do that. As hard as it is, as exhausting as it is really critical, because you have to keep the authenticity of your culture going as a leader, as a leadership team. So that's a second thing I would say I've learned. How we've kept motivated, honestly, it's been a time of total authenticity and asking for help. I do not have the answers at this time, and I've been incredibly transparent with my team about that, and asked for help, because this time you really, in times of crisis, you need help from everybody. You need forgiveness from everybody. The only way you get that is if you're incredibly open with those dialogues. So it is not a time to have a stiff upper lip, in my opinion. It is a time to be emotional, to show your own emotions, how you're struggling. You know, I've definitely struggled. I'm still struggling through this. It's really hard. But to reach out and help people when you see them struggling as well, and to just be really transparent about what's going on. I mean, that's all you can do really in times like this. So that's really helped us have the right conversations. Some have been really sad. Some have been super mad. Some have been incredibly joyful amidst a crisis. But it's because everyone's been really honest. And then last thing that we've done, I think, is we've really tried to stick to a schedule. So even when closed, we created a sense of community. So we had morning workouts every day. We had recess for kids. So we know a lot of parents were homeschooling their kids. We had a recess where all of us read stories, dressed up, did videos, just to keep, you know, younger children engaged and give the parents a break. And then we call them our Blue Crew conversations. Blue is our company color, where we met regularly at the end of the day just to share what was going on, and brought in a lot of outside speakers. So I haven't done it in the last couple months and the last few weeks because we opened and closed, but we'll get back to it. But we brought in a lot of outside speakers of companies and industries that were very different than ours to share their experience, because hearing how others are handling it or going through it can be really helpful and motivating as well. So we call them curious conversations at InShape, but that's been a big part of how we've managed to keep a sense of community and culture despite being remote, despite having our clubs closed. Those are some of the things we've done.
I love the 4 points that you raised. I think one of the 2 takeaways that I got from the message in maintaining your culture, the first was the fact that whether there is a pandemic or not, during up and downs, you have to stay true to your vision and your focus. That's one. I love that. And the last part, where you got to maintain a schedule, whether you work at your studio or even at home. Like, I think that's something that I strongly agree with you. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think one of the second last questions that I have for you is, as a women leader, right? What more can we do? You know, you being a CEO, what more can we do as professionals and as an industry to better promote women leadership, diversity, and inclusion?
Great question. Very top of mind. Has always been top of mind for me as a leader in every category I've worked in. I believe very strongly that you can't serve a member base if your organization does not reflect that member base. And all of our member bases include every race, every age group, and every gender. So you need to have an organization that is as diverse as your member base or consumer base to be able to understand a range of perspectives. So that's definitely one thing, is to think about it through the lens of the people that you're serving as members. You know, could they find their way in a company or be part of your community? We always think of our members as our team members and our members. So I think having awareness of that. I think the second thing is the word awareness, really. You know, the recent Black Lives Matter movement in the United States has been really powerful, and I'm hopeful that it's going to change a lot in a positive way around awareness, the need to look at the world and listen to the world in different ways. And I think as a industry that has been quite insular for many years and definitely is competitive, it's easy to focus on competition and winning versus how you do it. But I think we have so many great examples of the industry of companies that have focused on inclusive cultures. But I believe really strongly, and I have always have, but I've reaffirmed and gone on my own journey of listening and learning more with the Black Lives Matter movement that's happened, because it's a good time to check your own beliefs. Am I doing what I think I'm doing? That we have to have conversations. We have to be very open about what we're doing wrong. If you look at the CEO ranks in our industry, there's little diversity. So obviously we have an opportunity there. We have to think about how we engage our members and our team members in those dialogues in a way that's authentic. And most of all, we have to take action. This is not about a social media strategy. I feel passionately that as an industry, we are doers. We have an expression in InShape called GSD. It's one of our core values, which if you don't know what it stands for, it's get shit done. I want to take that same energy to make sure that we're tackling diversity and inclusion with that same energy that we tackle everything else, both internally at InShape and as well as in the industry as a whole. I think the last point I'll make is going back to our call to action around health. the fact that in the US, at least, several communities have been more impacted than others by COVID-19 due to underlying health in issues, particularly the Black and Latino communities. Mm-hmm. What that says to me is we're doing something wrong and that we're not bringing fitness in a way to those communities as well as we could. So I see that as part of our longer term mandate as well. We need to make sure every community has a solution to be healthy, because honestly, health and good fitness gives you self-confidence. Self-confidence translates into every aspect of your life. Feeling good about yourself is not whether you have a six-pack or not. I say this all the time, or how much you can bench. It's actually about inner confidence. And with inner confidence, you can achieve so much more. So there's a variety of dimensions I think that we can pursue. Right now, honestly, it's hard with many of our clubs being closed. All of us are just trying to stay alive. But we're having dialogues around this. We're sharing a lot of what we're doing. And I view this as definitely a top priority for an industry that we can't be preventative healthcare and bring healthcare to all if we are not inclusive and diverse. So they're inextricably linked in my mind.
I think what I get from your message is that at every point of time, in the strategy or making decisions for an organization, a CEO needs to have a checkpoint that basically covers diversity and inclusion. And I love the motto that you have, GSD. I think every organization should have something like that. So thank you. I think one of the last questions that I have, you shared a bit about what was your long-term vision, but what excites you about fitness when it comes to the future?
I'm really optimistic about this category. I think fitness is, as I said earlier, good physical fitness impacts your health, your mental health, and your confidence. And so we have such an impactful role to play in the world to help people. And I think that's why most of us are in this industry. We want to help people. So I'm really optimistic about the long-term prospects. I see us continuing with a lot of the innovation that existed in the industry, new ways to bring more people into the category, new ways to help people motivate. You know, we always talk about we're actually really in the motivation business, not the fitness business, because our biggest competitor is the snooze alarm. It's not another competitor in the marketplace. You know, it's hard to look, I struggle with motivation. It's hard to motivate people and stay motivated. So I see innovation continuing. I see us all looking at ourselves as fitness platforms versus a club or an app. I don't think it's an either or. This is one of the biggest things for me. It's an and. We need all kinds of ways to deliver fitness experiences so that we reach the most amount of people. So whether you have a club, a studio, an app, on demand, live streaming classes, a tracker, I think the media loves to pit us against each other. Oh, it's all digital now. It's not clubs. Or, oh, it's all studios, not big multi-purpose clubs. You need it all because we all find our people in different places. So I see us evolving into fitness platforms, all of us, into having, outdoor solutions, indoor solutions, online solutions, to be able to bring fitness to more people in a broader way. So I'm really excited about that and excited to collaborate. I see partnerships emerging a lot more, partnerships with healthcare providers, partnerships with tech companies. I think other industries do collaboration so well. We're an industry that's just starting to explore collaborations, meaning collaborations outside of our own industry. And so I see there's a huge amount of opportunity. Why Nike, health clubs, and a hospital can't all work together to bring preventative healthcare to a community. I don't see why you can't do that. And so I see collaboration being a big part of our future as well. So it's going to be a tough 2020 and probably 2021, but I see our role as an industry, our call to action to help others, as just really inspiring and hopefully gets us all through this challenging time and invites more people to join our industry, because I think we really have an important, like I said, call to action in place in the world going forward.
So basically what your message says is less competition, more cooperation and collaboration. Thank you so much.
Well, good summary. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to use that. I may coin that.
Francesca. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us at this main stage. I'm sure that our viewers are going to have a couple of questions, and they will basically be posting that on the Q&A right now while we actually post them to you at later part of the show. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much.
Building your own video on demand and live streaming platform has never been easier. Uscreen provides you with a full-blown, customizable video website, optimized to engage your audience. And our platform even supports live streaming. Our powerful OTT platform allows you to distribute your content to your own apps for smartphones, tablets, and TVs. The built-in billing and checkout system makes every purchase a seamless experience. Mix and match your offers, subscriptions, one-time purchases, bundles, or you can even let your users rent your videos. It's so easy to set up. And the best thing? At Uscreen, you keep 100% of the revenue. That's right. Join over 7,000 video creators who are already running their own video streaming service on Uscreen. Sign up for our free 14-day trial now.
We've talked a lot today about technology, whether it is CRM systems, wearable technology, infrastructure, whatever that may be. It's a pleasure to welcome you next to a conversation with Emmett Williams and myself. Emmett is a founding partner of Myzone, one of the most recognized technology companies in the fitness industry. Emmett has had a huge background and career across the world, but most recently has taken up the mantle of growing Myzone business across the Americas. Once again, he can talk directly to technology, how technology is impacting not just our industry, but the wider industries around us. And of course, not only that, but about how operators can move and evolve to make sure that they are future-proof as we come out of this crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, my interview now with Emmett Williams.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
It's a pleasure to welcome Emmett Williams, one of the founding partners and president of Myzone. Emmett, a very warm welcome to you this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ross. Happy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about the last 3 months. I mean, incredibly challenging. I know you have a long career in the industry. How have the last 3 months been for you personally?
Yeah, look, I think like any other executive in the fitness industry, we'd take physical exhaustion over this emotional and intellectual exhaustion. We've been in a position where we've had to re-strategize. We've had to be creative to do that. We've had to be analytical to go back to the forecasts and go through all the spreadsheets. And at the same time, we've had to go through the emotional pressure of furloughs and layoffs and all of that. So it's been a very draining time for everyone, and I think we can all relate with each other when it comes to that.
Yeah. You've worked across the globe, Emmett. I know obviously you started in Asia Pacific. You've been through Europe for the last few years. You've been working extensively in the Americas. Let's focus down into the US and perhaps Canada. Two of the biggest markets in the world, two of the most mature, two of the most sophisticated. We always look to there to see what kind of technology, what kind of innovation is coming out. How is the US market at the moment in time, and how do you see it evolve as a market in the next couple of years?
Yeah, look, it's interesting, Ross. I got here about 10 years ago, and it was a mature market back then, of course, with about a 20% penetration. But in that 10 years, at a macro level, a couple of things have happened. One, there's been the bifurcation of the industry. So those $50 a month gym memberships have split into two. And we've had the high volume, low price option on one side. And the classic scenario there is Planet Fitness at $10 a month and all their competitors. And then on the other side, you've had the high price, and that's been dominated by the boutique option. And you've left the middle of the market to struggle. And right here, right now in America, you've got brands like 24 Hour Fitness and Gold's Gym and Town Sport International, who are in the middle of the market going through some financial duress as we speak. Some of them are in bankruptcy. Some of them are trying to deal with large debt mountains to get over. And if you look at private equity, that money, which wasn't here 10, 15 years ago, it's really come into the space in the last 7 years. That money has gone to high volume, low price and to the boutique space, and their return on invested capital has been exceptional. What I will say is that in the high volume, low price space, the investors have made money being either club builders and owning the four walls, or being a franchise model where they own the model and sell the formula. Whereas in the boutique space, it's been about being a franchisor. And Orange Theory are your classic example. The F45 deal that just went through a few weeks ago that many of you would have heard about, classic example. These companies have a formula, they have systems, a brand, they have no capital expenditure. It's all intellectual IP, and they're selling for hundreds of millions of dollars. I won't share the numbers live, but a lot of money, and that's where the success has been. So, from a mature industry perspective, we've been successful. But guess what we haven't done? We haven't increased the penetration of the population. So, that is a challenge that we're still trying to solve for.
Well, let's look obviously at investment, because we do see investment pour into the fitness industry in the last couple of months alone, let alone the last couple of years. But taking it away from perhaps some of the gyms and the facilities and the clubs, let's maybe look at technology and technology solutions and providers. How do you see the technology market evolving in the next couple of years? It's moving so quickly. It's really hard for anybody to try and keep up with what is new, what is cool, what is useful, what is effective, and certainly what is sustainable. What are your thoughts on how this technology landscape will play out and how that will impact clubs?
Yeah, well, look, when I came to America, wearable technology in 2011 was not a household name, and Fitbit was a tiny company back in 2011. But of course, that wave of the quantified self really took off in 2013, 2014, 2015. And then it got to a point where everyone had a Fitbit, and then Apple Watch came to the market. And what we've done at Myzone has been really focused on the fitness industry and being a specialist provider when it comes to the quantified self. But to address your broader question of digital technology in the fitness space, I feel as if there's been a lot of angel money playing around with little technologies. But the catalyst for growth was Peloton. Peloton proved that there was a huge market for hardware and software and this digital community, and that is encouraging investors to come in. The investor money is encouraging entrepreneurs to get creative. And now, because of COVID, it's like this perfect storm. Because of COVID, rather than digital fitness being on one side of the room and physical brick and mortar fitness being on the other side of the room, there'll be this forced convergence, if you like, because brick and mortar brands have the eyeballs, digital fitness has the solution for tomorrow. And I've heard terms like the hybridization of fitness, bringing the two together. And I think we've got to be very grateful to Peloton for cracking the code when it comes to that. But if you think about it, at-home fitness, which is digital, it's not that new. I mean, Jane Fonda back in the 50s had aerobics classes on VHS cassette, and that was a technology, and that was fitness at home. The need was there back in the 80s. The need is still there today. It's just that we've got different ways of delivering it that are a lot more efficient and have more scale.
Well, you touched on it earlier, of course, with this acceleration towards a digital landscape and this hybridization of what's going to come between physical and digital worlds. Let's maybe look at, I suppose, how the positioning of businesses is at the moment in time. Fitness has always been perhaps branded and marketed in a certain way. And what we have seen with the consumer, certainly post-COVID, they're getting a lot more health conscious, coming back to this quantified self on a daily basis. Do you think that fitness businesses have to realign how they're positioned, how they're marketed, the services they're offering, to perhaps maybe skew that towards being more healthcare, lifestyle, well-being companies? Love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, okay. So the way I would answer that is that we're all different. Yes, we operate in the same broad sandpit, but what I think we should do is take a lesson from Silicon Valley and the digital space. You know, what these guys talk about is growth hacking. They talk about a formula to find truth when it comes to product development and when it comes to a go-to-market strategy. And take this platform that we're on right now, Zoom. Okay, so it was a technology, it was a startup at some point. And what they do in Silicon Valley is they ask themselves the question, what is the biggest problem we can solve right now? And so there's a lot of insight, and they're garnering insight. And the reason they're garnering insight is because they want foresight. And so they get this feedback. Once they get the problem statement, they then get really creative and they shut the doors and say, there's no bad ideas. Let's ideate here and let's just generate ideas to solve for this problem. Once they've done that, they then move on to less of a divergent and more of a convergent strategy where they say, okay, of all those ideas, which ones do we think have legs? And they assess them. Then what they do is they take them to market and test it. And there is a quantified measure as to whether or not this product feature worked and if there's truth there to the idea. And if it worked, they then put resources behind it and roll it out. And that's what Zoom have done. I mean, you know, whether Zoom started like this, but, you know, we can break out into separate rooms if we want. And if we've got 30 people on a Zoom call, we could break out into 6 rooms of 5, have a discussion, then come back again. That was an idea that someone came up with, didn't know if it was going to work or not. They tested it, it did, and it's been really successful for workshops during COVID. And so the reason I share that is that digital companies out of Silicon Valley are the biggest and fastest growing companies in the world. This is how Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, you know, all the FANG stocks, this is how they grow. And I think that fitness businesses, particularly from the analog world, where we're brick and mortar with hardware and kettlebells and whatnot, we can take a leaf from that and make it part of our culture to every quarter, collaborate with our front line, collaborate with our members, and work out where are the problems to solve, then creatively solve them, and then hold ourselves accountable to metrics. And if it works, guess what? You'll get growth, you'll get uplift, and it doesn't stop there. Go back to it next quarter, do it again and again and again. And that is a virtuous cycle to growth. And so to answer your question, it depends whether you're a boutique and what flavor of ice cream you are. It depends if you're a big box and what market you're in, particularly Asia. It's so diverse. You know, in America, you know, it's so mature that the markets are very, very similar compared to Asia. And so therefore, the truth in one country might not be the truth in another country, might not be the truth for a different type of brand. And so the way to solve is through process, culture, and executive power that leverages the asset of the team.
Yeah, we're always fascinated here with the amount of companies that are taking inspiration from food and beverage, hospitality, the lifestyle world, retail, fast-moving consumer goods. There's so much knowledge out there that we can glean from other industries to make sure we are stronger. Let me look back, if I can, and maybe talk a little bit about technology. There has been a huge explosion of technology across every single vertical. As an operator these days, whether you're a hotel, a fitness, a health club, a recreation club, you have a swathe of potential technology solutions at your fingertips to enhance retention, to enhance experience. What should operators really dial into in a criteria basis when they are trying to select the platforms and technologies they need to improve their business?
Yeah. Okay. So to use other industries, what comes to mind is IKEA, the furniture provider. IKEA are just a furniture provider, but they have this orchestra of activity that goes on that it's very hard to imitate, right? They have coffee shops or cafes inside their buildings so that you don't get hungry and go home and take the kids away, that you eat and then you continue to shop. They have flat pack, as we all know, so that you can build it the same day. And there's another 200 activities that take place that make it really hard for a competitor to take them on. Even the word IKEA, it's a global word that just works in any country. And that's what I think of when you ask a question like that. You know, any business strategy is an orchestra of activity working together. And as operators, we go to these trade shows and there are technology and there's equipment and programming, and that is essentially your options of instruments. But it's up to you, the maestro, to work out which instruments are we going to turn up, which ones will we turn down, and what sort of symphony are you searching for here. And so that strategy and technology, you have to make sure that it's a strategic fit, that you're not just buying technology to check the box and say, oh, we had a lockdown, we're coming out of lockdown, we need to say that we've got a digital solution, get something, check the box, and we're done. It needs to be consistent. And again, you need to test it to hold it accountable. When I do think about the consumer, a lot of the time, and excuse my dog, sorry, a lot of the time, gym operators will compare one gym to another. And how does our gym look and feel and smell compared to the gym up the road? But consumers don't think like that. There's a wonderful model out there known as jobs to be done. And if you go to YouTube and look up jobs to be done, Clay Christensen and milkshake, it'll come up with a wonderful video of how McDonald's evolved their chocolate milkshake. And you would think that there's not a lot of innovation in a chocolate milkshake or thick shake. You would think that an extra squirt of chocolate sauce and you're good to go. Who wouldn't like that? But what they established was what the buyer or the customer was doing 5 minutes before the purchase and 5 minutes after the purchase. And what they found was that a lot of the buyers were males in the morning on the way to work, a 40-minute commute. They wanted something that they could hold in one hand and drive the car with the other hand. They wanted something that would take 25 minutes to consume and make the commute to work less boring. They wanted something that would fill their stomach up until lunchtime so they wouldn't get hungry at 10 a.m. And there were all these features in the journey. And so when they innovated the milkshake, they made the straw a little bit thinner so it would take longer to come up the straw and would last the commute. They put pieces of fruit in there so that when the banana would come up the straw, it would make it interesting, like you won the lotto, in a small way. And once they understood that job to be done, they were able to evolve. And I think that's the way we need to look at what we're doing as operators. What's the job to be done right now with our particular audience? And then get that orchestra of activity to work together in concert and then test it to see if it works. So just because there's technology, Myzone included, just because there's technology out there, don't get it unless there's a cohesive argument to weave it into what you're doing, and it needs to be additive. Years ago it was all about selling gym memberships, and then the buzzword went to retention. And really, the operators in the US right now, they're talking about lifetime value. And maybe because it's a mature market, maybe because, again, Silicon Valley are all talking about, and again, Zoom as an example, customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value. That's the magic metric. And in the fitness industry, we're very similar to subscription digital companies. We've got this attraction and subscription model. Now, lifetime value includes not just retention, but it includes yield, but also it takes a long-term view. So think of attracting a member and then think, how do I maximize my margin over a 10-year period or 20-year period? You might attract them generate yield out of them, they may leave you, but they may come back in 2 or 3 years from now and go through the cycle again, leave you and go through the cycle again. And if you take that longitudinal approach and you understand what's the job at hand, you'll understand that things are cyclical and that's okay. Solve for the job to be done right now, solve for that, then keep a relationship there and be there for when they come back. And that's the type of thinking that's going on at the moment in a mature market where there are 70 gyms within a 3-mile radius and it's cutthroat. It's no longer about selling memberships. It's no longer about saying it's about retention. It's about understanding, what needs to be done. And in many ways, it's about encouraging routine. That's what we're learning. It's all about encouraging routine.
I think we just touched on it there. You see a lot of different operators investing in different places. Now, you're in a very privileged position, Emmett. You happen to be alongside these operators as they are planning their recovery strategies, even their long-term growth strategies, taking technology out of the equation here, and perhaps just touching a little bit on the experience we just mentioned. Where else do you think that investors will be investing in the next couple of years to try and get this recovery quickened up? And where do you think they have to invest?
Yeah, okay. So I think the operators at the moment are scrambling to put a business plan together to address a second lockdown, right? What happens if the flu season, so to speak, relaunches COVID and we have to go through it again? I think the operators are learning that just providing classes on Facebook Live is not the solution, because that's a commodity and it's free. And so what they're learning, and going back to that concept of encouraging routine, what they're learning is that to retain that member through a lockdown, it's all about encouraging routine. And if we can't encourage routine through inviting them into our gym and having a big boot camp song and dance party with loud music and high fives, then how else can we do that? And let's face it, we can all do exercise by ourselves, right? We can run, we can do kettlebells at home, TRX, you name it. But really what we're paying for is a solution that helps us keep doing it again and again and again, so that we get those results and maintain those results. And, one of the, and I'll move out of the sun here, one of the, analogies that I use is from the concept of the habit cycle. And if you look at toothpaste, Ross, just for a quick story here, Colgate established back in the 30s now that they wanted to sell more toothpaste. And so they decided to educate everyone that, you know what, you need to brush your teeth twice a day for good hygiene. And it had no effect. And then the behavioral scientists came in and said, you know what, it's not about education, it's about behavior change. And the way you get behavior change is by providing an instant sense of reward or achievement after a certain behavior. And so what they did was they added citric acid into the toothpaste to give it a tingling feeling, so that when you brushed your teeth, you had this sense of achievement. Dopamine was released in your brain. And because of that, the next time you got triggered to brush your teeth, it would remember that, oh, it felt good. I had this sense of achievement. A little bit of dopamine would be squirted in the brain. That's called an urge. You get an urge to do it again. And all good habits and bad habits are formed this way. So eating too much chocolate comes from chocolate tasting too good. Alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, you name it, but good habits as well, such as brushing your teeth, but also exercise. And if we want to encourage routine with our member and sustain them through another lockdown, then it is all about providing the tingle in the toothpaste. We need to provide that reward, that sense of achievement, because losing weight takes months, right? Lowering blood pressure takes months. But having this sense of achievement through gamification or through community where there's encouragement, that is instant. And I was, which podcast was I listening to? I think it was a Scott Galloway podcast recently, who spoke about humans do not get sick of recognition from other humans. You cannot have too much of it, right? You can have too much of a lot. You can't have too much recognition. And so therefore, if we want to attract and engage our customer base, the real growth hack there is give them recognition, give them a sense of achievement, make it immediate. That will keep their routine going, just like brushing your teeth, and that will get you through the second lockdown. And to come back to the premise of your question about investors, they're looking for operators who have got a formula that addresses that and accounts it.
Assuming we can change the behavior of consumers, and assuming that we can get them into more daily routines that include health, fitness, and wellness. One of the key challenges the industry has always faced, Emmett, is we're guilty perhaps of innovating and then slipping back to the old ways. Now, the old ways, I think we've realised some are effective and some are not. But having a look at ourselves, having a look at the industry, how do we have to really change going forward in order for us to really, truly make a sustainably better industry?
Yeah, I think it comes down to culture. You know, this notion of working on your business continually. You know, we almost got comfortable as operators working in the business the whole time, and everything was going well. And we knew what we were doing. We were selling memberships, keeping the place clean, having programming, and that was the formula until COVID hit. And then we all worked on the business rather than in the business. And what we need to do is not forget that when the world opens up again. We need to, almost like when you carve out a percentage of revenue every year to reinvest back into maintenance CapEx, we almost need to carve time out every month to reinvest back into working on the business. And an idea this quarter is not necessarily an idea for next quarter. And we use the acronym at Myzone, RICE, which is reduce, increase, create, and eliminate. So you're always doing RICE to your entire strategy. And the eliminate is important. Sometimes you need to shoot the bad ideas.
Well, look, I know, of course, you've enjoyed some fantastic years in Australia. For those that don't know, Emmett is homeward bound soon. I know you're coming back over here to Asia Pacific with the family and to help grow the Asia Pacific business here. Are you excited to come back home, and what's the market like here, and what are the family thinking about the move?
Oh, look, the family are wrapped. I mean, we've just been announcing it in the last 48 hours, actually, Ross, and it's just absolute, after almost a decade, and I love America, and I've learned so much from America. And as you said off the top, it's the leader in the world in terms of trends and mature and large. But coming home is great. And as an entrepreneur, I'm just so excited about entering the Asia Pacific market and helping operators crack the code. As you can see, I truly do think that it is about strategy and cracking that code in order to find truth and to find success with a commercial operation. So that's truly what motivates me. And Asia has got so much diversity and opportunity, and it's at a different part of the growth curve. So yeah, I'm just pumped to be coming back.
Well, Emmett, really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks for taking your time out of your day. Look forward to having you back in Asia Pacific. All the very best to the team and all the very best to the family in the move. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Ross, and thanks for having me.
Myzone is a wearable technology platform for the commercial fitness industry. Essentially, it's a heart rate-based device that picks up the effort that you're putting into exercise. It gives you feedback on a big TV in the gym in colours and numbers and a lot of dynamic movement, feeds it to the cloud, and then presents it on a smartphone to the user. The whole idea is to reward effort.
You see all these cool colors flying up on the monitors, and you want to do that.